Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about this trade war between the US and China and see what implications it has. Trade wars are complicated. China is mentioning already that it's happening, and it's very, very relevant figures. The figures that we're talking about is China has the largest trade surplus with the US, i.e. it exports a lot more than it imports from the US. China exports to the US around $480 billion, while it imports around 116. Those figures are important, but we have to take into account as well that a large part of those exports to the US comes from US companies that are producing in China and then selling to the US. So you can understand why there is this trade war happening and why there is this rhetoric about returning production into the US. But China also has a very, very large trade surplus with the world. Its trade surplus, global trade surplus, is around $509 billion. So the implications of entering in a trade war are very relevant. Let's start with one. The first one is overcapacity. There is a tremendous amount of overcapacity in the world created to adapt to a growing demand from China. If China slows down and it starts to export less to the world and starts to have larger imbalances, that overcapacity that we have already suffered from in the last years throughout the world will rise even further. Let's talk also of the implications on global growth. A 10% reduction in global commerce could have an impact of around 0.3 to 0.5% on global GDP. Let's talk also about the implications to the European Union with a very large trade surplus. A slowdown in China is definitely going to harm the European Union's exports to the Asian giant, but also for Japan. Japan has a very, very relevant trade with China. So what we're seeing is that this trade war could rise overcapacity. Furthermore, we could have bad inflation coming from the lower productivity, which is a big problem. And the other thing that we could see is a slowdown, gradual slowdown in growth in the world that could erase about 0.3 to 0.5% from estimates. So let's pay attention to this. Thank you very much.